Hey there, welcome to this week's episode of Next Level Play Therapy. And today I want to talk about a question that comes up all the time in the play therapy circles, comes up in my play therapy training, it comes up in my consultation programs. Play Therapy Elevation Circle is my new membership. And then my consultation program for those who really, it's typically for people who want to pursue their RPT credential, and that's Play Therapy Academy. Not everybody in Play Therapy Academy is joining or pursuing their RPT credential. They just want a whole lot of support. So this question comes up a lot in those consultation programs, and that is, do I or don't I include parents in play therapy sessions? So I'm sure you've had this happen. You have walked out to the lobby and your client with their cute little face says to you, can my mom come? Can my dad come in the session? Can they come with us? And in your head, you're a split second having to make a decision. Or maybe you've had this happen where you are meeting with parents, you're doing your diagnostic intake session where you're gathering all the information, you're explaining about play therapy, and they look at you with a skeptical eye when you explain how you provide your play therapy services and say, well, what are you doing in there? You mean I can't be in the session? And then you instantly hear that kind of underlying, I'll say accusation. I don't think it's really accusation, but I don't have a better word right now. Concern, skepticism, or a parent's heightened alarm, like, what the heck are you doing in that session? I would say that one doesn't happen as much as walking out to the playroom and having a client say, can my mom come in? Can my dad come in? Can my brother come in? Can my sister come in? They want their siblings to come in, or maybe their little friend is coming and they're waiting out in the waiting room and they say, can my friend come in? All the things that tend to happen when you're a play therapist. So if that's happened to you, or maybe you have thought, I know parents are important and I want to figure out how to involve them in the play therapy process. And maybe you include them in the session and it's awkward and you're regretting your decision, thinking, oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. That went so terrible. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Usually, when we talk those things through in our consultation meetings, we kind of figure out, one, what was at the root of that, what was going on, and then what do we need to do, and what is that going to look like? And so that to me is the purpose for today's live stream episode, podcast episode, for those of you who are listening to the audio version of this. That's the purpose of this conversation, to kind of help you think about what needs to be considered when you're deciding yes or no to the question of, are parents going to be involved in the play therapy session? So that's what we're talking about today. If you're joining me live, I would love to know who's here. Say hello in the comments, post your name, where are you from, what population do you work with? If you're watching on the replay, I would still love to see who's watching, say hello, what population, all the things. If you're listening on the podcast, I would love it if you would leave a review. If you find the episode helpful, then I'd love for you to leave a review. It gives me lots of good feedback. Also, feel free to pop over to Instagram at Renewing Hearts Training. Send me a message. I would love to hear from you. What was helpful? What are your thoughts? How do you handle these situations? So before we do that, though, before we jump into that, I want to um, say something about the events of the last week. I try to say this without crying, to be actually, but I can't guarantee I'm not going to tear up a bit. Um, I've I have I've gone back and forth in my head over the last week. What am I going to do today? Am I going to say something? Am I not going to say something? I feel like in order to be in integrity, I need to say something that has been happening in the mental health community that has actually been breaking my heart. And that is engaging in the same rhetoric of the person who murdered another human being for their ideas, whether or not you agree with them or don't agree with them. I think mental health professionals need to be part of the healing process. I don't think we need to be celebrating the death of another human being over his ideals that may not align with your political ideology. I I have been heartbroken by some of the comments that I have seen posted online, continuing the same rhetoric used by a murderer. I don't think as mental health professionals, that's who we are. And so I just wanted to encourage all of us to be part of the healing and not engage in rhetoric that perpetuates hate. We can have differences of opinions. We don't have to engage in hate. So that it's been breaking my heart lately. I wanted to give a nod out to the New York Association for Play Therapy and Jody Mullen, who have issued a hope challenge, being a hope detective. And that is going online and posting things that give you hope, that make you look at the world and find the good, to find the healing, find ways for us to move past what I call the poison that seems to be infecting I would say, our profession. So that's just all I wanted to say on that. I'm going to end with one thing. If you're going to call me a white supremacist, that kills me, because that happened on Instagram. If you're going to call me a white supremacist, a white nationalist, or a racist, don't bother. I will delete your comments. You just validate my point. I don't want you in my circles. Please disconnect from me. I have no tolerance for that. You cannot call me a white supremacist or a white nationalist or a racist because I ask you to engage in healing, not hate. You just proved my point, to be completely honest. So, yes, that one hurts. It does. I'm human. And to call me that vile name is unconscionable. So don't bother posting. I'll delete it. You'll prove my point. I think it's time for us to be part of the change. So that's all I'm going to say about that. For those of you who have remained and haven't cut me out yet, I'm going to move on to the topic that we have, which is attachment. It's relationship. It's connection, right? And we want to facilitate that in families. We want to facilitate that for our clients. So I am going to the topic for today. Oh, I wanted to, it's somebody posting on YouTube. So Renee from Oklahoma, welcome. Currently working on my RPT as I work with children. Oh, that's so awesome. In the Native community. Sorry, I was I was impressed by the work that you're doing, and I just think that is so awesome. Um, Thank you, Renee. That did that gives me hope because what I'm finding is as we have the courage to speak up, we're finding others like me who hate drama, who hate the ickiness, and so we tend to stay quiet and not say something. But Renee says, totally agree with your statement about mental health professionals to not engage in the same tone as someone with we have differing opinions. Yes, thank you for that. Gives me hope. So, being a hope detective, thank you, Renee. All righty. So, the topic that we are discussing today is should parents participate in play therapy sessions? So for those of you who have remained, oh, there's another person on Instagram. I work with children and families at a homeless shelter. That's so awesome. I did that for a while too when I was in Virginia, helping to get a play therapy program off the ground. It was an interesting model that we ended up developing because of the nature of the agency, the population we were working with. But that is awesome, and repairing some of that attachment security for children who have experienced homelessness and some of the kind of trauma that comes along with that. I think that's awesome. So, yes, so that's what we are talking about today. Should parents participate in play therapy sessions? I think it's helpful to go through kind of a pros and cons when you're trying to figure out whether or not to include parents, because making a decision in the waiting room in a split second based on seeing your client's cute little face and their sweet little voice, um, we need to be intentional about our decision making. And so let's first look at the benefits of including parents in play therapy sessions. We would call these the pros. If we're doing a pros and cons list, these would be some pros to think about. What are the benefits of including parents in the play therapy sessions? And I would say strengthening attachment relationships, right? To improve resiliency and self-concept, to settle their little neurosystems. We know that children who have secure attachment relationships with their parents thrive. They develop the ability to tolerate distress. They develop what I would say conceptualizes wider windows of distress tolerance. So perfect example of this would be, I can't tell you how many times over the last couple of decades I have found when I include parents in play therapy sessions to address pretty significant emotion dysregulation issues where the child is tantruming maybe every day, several times a day, or several times a week, several times a day. They're tantruming and, you know, throwing things, gnashing of teeth, saying angry things to their parent, like, I hate you, you're the worst mom, you're the worst dad, which, stick a knife in my heart. When, if I'm a parent, that's got to be a hard thing to hear. And so parents don't know what to do. They're bringing their child who is getting in trouble at school, or maybe they're fine at school and they're not doing well at home. Parents are feeling overwhelmed and lost, and they're worried about their child. And so they are bringing them to therapy. And I can't tell you how many times at some point when I begin to include parents in the play therapy sessions, and we use my attachment focused family play therapy model, and we work on that attachment relationship. We help parents learn some attachment-based approaches or things to do to co-regulate and kind of help their child down regulate their their nervous system. It has made a huge difference. So I think that's one of the benefits, is that we can strengthen that attachment relationship, to help children use their parents for co-regulation. So KMT Webster says, I would love a resource about attachment focused plan. Oh, that's great. Well, stay tuned, because I'll be talking about that a little bit at the end. I have a training coming up. It's virtual and in person, about attachment focused family play therapy. I also have a book called Attachment Focused Family Play Therapy. This one's focused on trauma. So this one might be a good one for you, because a lot of times that experience of homelessness is pretty traumatic. And I think it's pretty typical to find generational histories where there's been some trauma and attachment issues in the family system. Not always, but I think it happens a lot. So anyways, I will talk more about that. Another benefit of integrating parents into the play therapy session is, I find that treatment outcomes are better and faster. There was a study done, I think it was in the early 2000s, actually, by D. Ray and some other play therapists. I mentioned it in my book. I forgot the year offhand. Anyways, they looked at the effectiveness of play therapy. And one of the things that they found in the study was, when parents are involved in their child's play therapy treatment, the outcomes are better. I would also say we can get there faster, because what we're doing is we're helping parents become the therapeutic agents of change for their child. And they're going to be in their child's life way longer than you're going to be in their child's life. So if we can shift those relationship interaction patterns in that family system, and I would even advocate to say that we can shift them for generations, then that's a win-win, I think, by including them in the treatment process. And I can't tell you how many times I've also found that at some point, especially when we're working with trauma, or maybe we're working with anxiety or depression or other things, that when at some point when I begin to integrate parents and we do my attachment focused family play therapy model, what we find is children move fast. I find that children move faster through the healing process, because now they can use their parents. I would say also siblings. I have found that including siblings in the family play therapy session gives children a safety net of support when you can shift those dynamics within the family relationship. And so that way we're looking at this through that family systems lens. I like integrating family systems and attachment theory. And I think we create the ability for children to get better outcomes and to heal faster. I think I kind of also mentioned the third thing that I would say is it creates a safety net for children to be able to have resources for support throughout their life, because children are going to be part of their family system. Hopefully, we hope they stay connected and build strong support networks. There's also research that has been shown. I think I mentioned this one in a previous episode as well. This might have been maybe last year. I probably mentioned it in my book as well, but I can't recall it offhand right now. But there have been studies that have shown. There was one study that looked at maternal depression and the resiliency support of having older siblings kind of help out and connect and be that source of support within the family system as well, and how that helped children to develop some resiliency. So I think these sibling relationships are things that we often overlook, and they can be really beneficial to include siblings. It is not uncommon. I get the whole family in there. There might be a ton of people in there, but you get to see in real time what is going on. And I think that's the other benefit, that you get to see for yourself what is going on in the sessions. So if you have parents who say, well, I did that, it doesn't work, or you're still getting those phone calls in between the sessions of everything that's going wrong, and you feel that pressure to fix it fast, and you've made the suggestions, well, I've done that, it didn't work, then why don't you just get them all in there, use a plan. And we'll talk more about that. You need to have a plan. You need to use a framework. What does your theoretical model say? I'll go over that in some of the tips. But you get a better sense of what is going on in that family system. Can't tell you how many times I've had parents say, well, they just hit each other, talking about the children, the siblings. They're just saying mean things. They're hitting and pushing. And the fear, of course, rightly so, is that the siblings are going to hate each other and they're not going to have relationships when they get older. And then we get in there and we do family play therapy sessions, and I find out, well, they actually do like each other. I mean, the other things, yes, need to be addressed. And I find out, wow, they really like each other. And I see the kindness show up towards the sibling that maybe yesterday drove them bonkers, and they weren't being so kind to each other, right? But if you want to see what is going on in real time and have a better sense, then including parents, and I would include siblings in the sessions, will give you an idea of what is going on and how to help this client make some real progress healing. So those are the benefits. I want to move on to the drawbacks, or we'll call these the cons, of including parents in play therapy sessions. So one of the drawbacks is that children don't have their own space for healing when they're struggling, and that's the benefit of individual play therapy sessions, is that you can really provide that space for the child to go to a deeper level of healing internally, right? So that intrapsychic healing, to pull out one of my big fancy therapy words. The other drawback might be, is that parent able to be a secure attachment figure for their child? Here's the thing, just because a child does not want their parent in the session doesn't necessarily mean they can't be a secure attachment figure. Just means you have some things to work through. There are some parents, though, or some adult figures, or even some siblings that maybe are not able to be in the session. Maybe there's been trauma or abuse or neglect, or maybe there's, you have to work on creating a little bit of healing for the child and do some work with the parent. And then through that process, you can kind of figure out, is this parent able to be what the child needs in terms of developing a more secure attachment? I would say it doesn't happen as often as play therapists think it will happen. And I will say it does happen. So we have to be intentional and definitely need to think that one through about safety, because you're not going to be able to facilitate any safety, any healing, unless there's a sense of safety in the sessions. The other drawback might be that you don't have a framework. Most play therapy trainings focus on the individual client for individual sessions. And I think what I want to challenge people is including parents in the play therapy session isn't individual therapy plus another person. When you integrate parents or siblings in the play therapy session, you've moved out of an individual therapy model, and the way in which you work with children and families in a session, you can't just use an individual lens, an individual therapy lens. You need to shift to either an attachment lens, and what would that attachment lens look like, or using a family systems lens, or like me, I mold those two together and integrate those two into an attachment and family systems lens. So if you're going to include parents and or siblings in the family in the session with their child, what I would say is you need a model. You need to have some training to um, to learn a framework into the play therapy session. Don't just include them in there and wing it and hope it goes well. If you maybe it'll go well, most of the time it does not. I can say that from personal experience, and I can say that from talking to hundreds of play therapists. So those are the pros and cons. So those are the things you want to think about if you're deciding yes or no, do I want to include parents or siblings? If you decide yes, here are some tips to think about for including parents in play therapy sessions. First thing is get clear on the purpose for parents in the session and what you want to achieve. The previous two episodes, live stream episodes, or podcast, if you want, I talked a little more in depth about this. So you may want to go back and either watch the replays. If you're watching on YouTube, just go on my YouTube channel. If you're watching on LinkedIn, it's probably easier to go over to my YouTube channel as well. And Kathy Spooner, Renewing Hearts. Click on the live tab and you'll see all of my live stream replays on there. So you may want to go back and listen to some of those. The second tip is meet with parents first, have some conversations, explain what you're going to be doing, explain their role, explain your role, explain the purpose, explain how you think this will benefit their child, because that's the reason we're doing it, right? Is to benefit the child. But first, explain all of that and what is that going to look like. And you're also going to want to explain the model that you're using and what they're going to be doing and what you're going to be doing in the session. Otherwise, it's really awkward. They may say something. You might explain all of that, and they may show up in ways that don't represent their best selves when they're managers, right? They're protectors get engaged, to use an IFS terminology. That's what we're there for, to help. Again, we're not. So let me clarify that. We're still mandated reporters. If a child is not safe, we suspect abuse, we have to report that. Most of the times, parents show up with their messy selves. They're relying on us to help them, And we can help them if they trust us. We can help them facilitate that shift and use different kinds of parenting approaches. But first, we need to help them understand that's the purpose of the session. They're going to practice some skills that you're going to be teaching them in the sessions and also outside of the play therapy sessions. But first, you have to help them understand all of that, and then you're going to practice it in the sessions. The third thing is really thinking about parents as your partner. You want parents to see you as somebody who's going to be supporting them and not judging them. In order for them to feel supported and not believe you are judging them, even if you are not, they still worry about that because this is hard. They feel like failures most of the time. I feel like a failure sometimes as a parent, right? I mean, it's hard. Parenting is hard. So we want to help them understand that we see them as a partner, and we want to use a model that's going to engage them as a partner. And your play therapy model is going to influence that. The key is helping to establish that trust with parents where they see you as somebody who's there to help them so that their child can heal. The fourth thing is you can use the play therapy sessions to teach parents skills and help to change those attachment patterns, those interaction patterns. So, what is that going to look like depending on your play therapy model? That might look different ways. If you're using Gestalt play therapy, that model allows for looking at the child in context, and you can use Gestalt play therapy for integrating parents and siblings in the play therapy session. I would say that's true also for Adlerian play therapy. If you're using TheraPlay, then you're just going to be having the one parent in there. So it might look a little bit different. All of those models, though, you're going to be helping parents to strengthen their relationship with their child. And you're probably also teaching some skills to parents and helping parents teach skills to their child that can be used outside of the play therapy session. And then the final tip is your play therapy model is your theoretical GPS system, so to speak. Your play therapy model is what influences how you conceptualize the problem. So, what are you seeing at the root of the problem that's causing this to continue, and what are the patterns going on? Your play therapy model is going to influence how you conceptualize that. And then also it's going to show you what to do. Your play therapy model is going to show you in each stage of play therapy, what's your role, what's parents' role, what are you accomplishing in each stage, what does that look like? So that when you're choosing the play therapy strategies and activities of what you're going to be doing in the session, you're going to be aligning that with your play therapy model, and you're going to be thinking about what activity you're going to do in what stage of the play therapy process. So you want to have a play therapy model that is going to guide you in how you're integrating parents, and I would even say siblings, in play therapy sessions. So that is it for today. Let me do a quick recap. And basically the recap is, if you are thinking about, are you going to include parents or not include parents, or I would even say siblings, in play therapy sessions, then it's really important to be intentional about the process, being clear about why parents or siblings are in that session. What is it you hope to accomplish? What are you working on? What is their role? What is your role? All the things. And you're going to go through that kind of pros and cons process to help you decide whether or not to include parents or family members in the play therapy sessions, and who, and what is that going to look like? And then also, if you've decided to include parents or siblings in the play therapy sessions, be clear about those expectations, roles, and aligning their involvement with your play therapy model. So, KMT Webster says, how can we contact you via email? I'd love to reach out and learn more about future trainings. Well, thank you for that awesome segue, because I am about to say that. So if you're interested in the training, pop over to my website. There's other resources on there as well, other information. I have some other trainings on there as well if you're interested. Pop over to my website at rhplaytherapytraining.com. That's rhplaytherapytraining.com. It's Renewing Hearts Play Therapy Training. You can look on the training page. Right now, I have a training coming up called Attachment Focused Family Play Therapy. It's either, you can either attend virtually or in person. It'll be in beautiful St. George, Utah. It's November 8th, and it's a Saturday, and it's I think it's 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Mountain Time, because Utah's in Mountain Time. If you're interested, we'll post the link in the comments. But if you're on Instagram, you can click on my bio. Should be a link in there as well, or you can pop over to my website. So if you're interested in play therapy, attachment focused family play therapy, registration is open now. You can take advantage of the early bird pricing. We just opened registration this week. Also, if you're interested, because I always think it's awesome that we take trainings. I think it's awesome to have a community of play therapists that we can meet with and connect with to help us apply those skills. Play Therapy Elevation Circle is my new membership that I created for people who really want to connect and get support. So we take the trainings. I definitely think we need the trainings. I also think it's really helpful to have a community to help us apply those. Right now, if you want to get on the wait list for Play Therapy Elevation Circle, then you can pop over to my website as well and click on the link to get onto the wait list. I closed it off. We're going to be changing over to a new platform that's going to allow a lot more interaction. So when I reopen enrollment in January, I'll open it back up. Then it'll be on our new platform and people will be able to connect more. So that's it for today. Have a great day. And I will see you next week. Bye for now.